Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. I'd like to speak to you today about the ecosystem of fear. Now, this topic came about yesterday when I was on a walk. I forgot my earphones. Well, I didn't forget it. When I left the house, I remembered I hadn't taken it, but I had planned to be on a phone call, but that phone call did not materialize. So I ended up walking without my earphones, and I reverted to what I used to do, which was just sing on the road and think. And it was such a great time that I had for about an hour and a half. I was walking, and I just started to think about the ecosystem of fear in my life and that I've actually experienced in my life and observed in the lives of others. And I was thinking about the ecosystem of fear. And ecosystems are essentially an interconnected network. So for the ecosystem of plants, you have light, you have soil, you have insects, and it's sort of there's a reliance. It's a network, and within the system, each item relies on the other. And as it relates to fear, fear requires an ecosystem in order for it to survive and thrive. And as I was thinking about fear, I realized that fear creates a wall in your life. So for the person who's dealing with fear out there, it creates a wall in your life and it keeps you in and keeps good out of your life. It keeps the bad things in your life and keeps good from getting into your life. So in order for the ecosystem of fear to thrive, you have things like doubt, you have pretense, you will have anxiety. So you have these things that are all taking place and they help fear to thrive in your life. So you'll think, oh, if I did this, what would happen? Or if I do that, what would people say? Those are some of the things that enable fear to thrive. So I was just thinking about the ecosystems of fear, and I got home, did what I usually do, went to bed. But then in the early hours of this morning, I had a dream, and in this dream, I was like in a building, and there were a community of people having like an event on the ground floor. But then on the second floor, above the event, there was a young couple, and the young couple were engaged in a physical fight. So I saw myself going up the stairs, and as I passed I passed some people going up the stairs, and those people that I passed were aware of the situation going on in that room, but they put it down to it's between a husband and his wife. They were not going to get involved. When I got to the door, there was a glass, and I looked through the glass, and I saw this man like punching his wife, like he had a fist, and he was punching his wife, and she was fighting back. And when I looked through the glass, my initial reaction was similar to the others, which is it's between a husband and his wife. Let me not get involved. But then I stopped myself. I was like, no, I'm going to go into the room. And I went into the room and interrupted the fight. I spoke sternly to the man because there was this fear within me. What if he hits me? Because that was a legitimate fear, because some people could decide to get violent with you as well. But I decided to just brace myself, and I went into the room. And as soon as I walked into the room, I reprimanded the man. His wife walked out, and the man had to let me go into the room, and then he walked out of the room. I told him off, and he walked out of the room. And to me, that dream tied up very nicely with the ecosystem of fear, because I was just thinking to myself, why didn't this woman scream out louder? And when I thought about it, it was because she did not want to interrupt the community of people downstairs. She didn't want to interrupt what was going on. She didn't want people to know what was going on, and so she muted her cries and was trying to fight back somewhat ineffectively. And I just wanted to just reach out to any community of people out there listening to this video, because I understand that during this coronavirus period, people have been we've been in lockdown, you've been home, and there has been a I've heard that there's been an increase in domestic violence. People who were already experiencing domestic violence have had a resurgence or an increase of this, because if you can't get to work or you're trapped, people have anger issues, unresolved issues, and had a previous tendency to take it out on their spouses. This period would have provided the perfect opportunity for them to even do even more, to inflict even more abuse on their spouses. So, if you're a community of people, you could be a community of Muslims, a community of Christians, a community of atheists, a community of musicians, a community of I'm just thinking about Jesus, haven't made up my mind yet. Whatever community you are of people out there, if you are aware of abuse going on within a particular family, it is incumbent that you actually speak out. In the dream, I also wondered why the people I'd passed didn't do anything about it. And that it made me realize that it ties in nicely with the ecosystem of fear, because the ecosystem of fear requires a network to sustain itself. So those people who observed the violence, observed the abuse, and did nothing, probably felt powerless to deal with the situation. They themselves had probably experienced abuse in some form or the other. So if, for instance, a child observes her mother being abused by her father, what that situation is teaching that child is this is acceptable. This is how women are treated, or conversely, because I understand that women also abuse their husbands, that this is how men are treated. And so that child is being conditioned to accept abuse, and it's then perpetuated generationally, because then that child could then go on to be in an abusive relationship in some way or in some shape or form, or that child could be in the lineup, like the people that I saw on the stairs. That child could be on the stairs watching somebody else being abused, and they just think this is normal, this is how people are treated. So that ecosystem is perpetuated. The fact that she didn't cry out just really speaks to the ecosystem of pretense that helps abuse continue to thrive. So you don't know you don't want people to know what's going on. So you might belong to a culture where things things like that are not spoken about publicly. So you don't want people to know that you're actually going through that situation. You even feel shame because you are being abused. Now, the fear that you feel in your heart because you don't want people to know, that fear could actually lead to your death or very serious injury. So it's best that you actually speak up, get help, speak to somebody who can assist you, and get help and get yourself out of that situation. The perpetrator of the abuse needs just as much help as you do. But whilst you're in that relationship, you're in that situation, you cannot help them, because the person who's perpetrating the abuse may also have observed their father or their mother abuse their parents, and so they feel like this is how relationships are handled. This is how we communicate, and this is how I communicate my anger, my resentment, my frustration, by taking it out on my spouse physically. This is wrong. Both parties need help. The one inflicting the abuse, the one receiving the abuse. You need help. My advice to you today is to get out. Regardless of what your culture might say, regardless of what your community might say, thinking about the repercussions. Thinking about the repercussions and allowing that to keep you in that situation is very much unhelpful. If you're afraid of what people might say, how people might judge you, it's best that you get out of that situation and then start a new beginning, instead of allowing people's perceptions to keep you in fear, to keep you in harm's way. So these are just some of my thoughts as it relates to the ecosystem of abuse. Pretense is a big one, because you don't want people to know what's going on. You mask things up. You put makeup over your bruises. You refuse to speak about it. That pretense is going to keep you in fear and could cost you your life. The ecosystem of culture. It could be Christian culture, it could be Muslim culture, it could be pop culture, whatever culture there is out you might find yourself involved in. That culture could actually contribute to you receiving even more pain because you're thinking, oh, it's things are not done like that. We're not allowed to leave. Once we're married, we stay married, which is ideal. But if you're getting abused on a physical, if you're getting abused physically, mentally, in whatever way you're receiving that abuse, that's not what that's not how things should be, and so you shouldn't be in that position. You should actually get yourself out of that position, get help, and if you're able to work on the relationship from afar and it works, great. But if not, then you move on. So those are just some of my thoughts for you today. There's a possibility that I'll come back to it in future. But for now, if you know anybody who is in an abusive relationship and they don't know what to do, please send this video to them. It's of the utmost importance that you get help. Speak to somebody in private, speak to somebody in a safe place, and get help. The internet is there for you to do the research. Whatever part of the world you're listening to this from, there is help for you out there. So thinking of, because your fear might be like, oh, what would happen to me and my children? It's better for you to get you and your children out, because by doing that, you stand a better chance of breaking that generational cycle. You stand a better chance of teaching your child that they deserve better in their life. So you might struggle initially, but eventually it will get better. So don't let the fear trap you thinking, oh, my spouse provides everything that I need. If I get my child out of this situation, what's going to happen to them? What's going to happen to me? I understand, but it's important that you get yourself out of there, get help, and get yourself to a safe place. Okay? So those are just my thoughts for you today. From my heart to yours, do stay safe. Until next time, take it easy. Bye.